So, Patrick, can you elaborate on what happened on that fateful day?
The team plane started experiencing turbulence once we got into the mountains, and we heard this loud explosion. And next thing we know, we're wrecked and out in the coldest weather we ever been in. We ran out of food after a few weeks and had to resort to cannibalism. Well, I don't want to get into that part, but I will say that black people taste like chicken and white folks taste like macaroni salad with big raisins.
Alright, you kids get to bed, I get the storybook.
The Kansas City Chiefs plane crashes. The NFL's Kansas City Chiefs, reigning champions of the National Football League, have solidified their place as one of the most dominant teams in modern football. Led by their star quarterback Patrick Mahomes, the team has earned multiple Super Bowl victories in recent years, captivating fans with their high-octane offense, strategic plays, and unmatched determination. Key players like Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, and the dynamic coaching of veteran Andy Reid have made the Chiefs a household name not only in the United States but across the globe. Their electrifying performances and tight-knit camaraderie have garnered a loyal fan base and established their reputation as a football powerhouse. In an unexpected move, the Kansas City Chiefs announced their participation in an unprecedented exhibition game against Chile's top soccer players. The Chilean team, consisting of elite soccer athletes, had spent an entire year training in the fundamentals of American football under the guidance of international coaches. This match, set to take place in Santiago, Chile, promised to be a fascinating convergence of two distinct sports cultures. The announcement created a global buzz, with analysts and fans eagerly debating the outcome of this unique sporting experiment, which would be full tackle and not flag football as some expected. The exhibition game was more than just a clash of athletic skills. It represented a bold step toward fostering international sports diplomacy. By blending the worlds of American football and soccer, which is also called football in other countries, the event aimed to bridge cultural divides and promote mutual respect between nations. The Chiefs saw this as an opportunity to expand the reach of American football, inspiring new fans and athletes in regions where the sport had yet to gain a significant foothold. Additionally, the match served as a test of adaptability and innovation, challenging athletes from both sports to step out of their comfort zones and embrace a new form of competition. The team's jet was a masterpiece of modern aviation, a gleaming symbol of luxury and cutting-edge technology. Designed for both comfort and efficiency, the interior was adorned in deep red and white leather seats, soft fabrics, and sleek metallic finishes. The cabin was spacious, with recliner-style seating arranged in pods of 4, perfect for the camaraderie and ease of the team. Individual touchscreens were embedded in the armrests for entertainment, and high-definition windows offered breathtaking panoramic views of the sky. The jet's lounge area featured a plush sectional sofa, perfect for casual chats and lighthearted games. A well-stocked bar was neatly tucked away, offering a variety of spirits, and an assortment of snacks lined the walls. It wasn't just about comfort, it was about feeling like football royalty in the air. A few games of cards were underway as the team settled into their seats for a journey that would take them far from their usual routine. The plane buzzed with light chatter as the team members shared stories, their personalities coming through in bursts of laughter and teasing. Patrick Mahomes, the team's superstar quarterback, was seated in the center. Known for his stoic demeanor on the field, he had a softer side when surrounded by friends. His laid-back voice commanded attention when he spoke, but his laughter was genuine, and he often orchestrated the team's light-hearted pranks.
Why did the gay man bring a ladder to the bar? He heard the drinks were on the house.
Matt Nagy, the team's strategist and offensive coordinator, was known for his sharp mind and competitive spirit. He often offered insight into the game, but today his focus was on a crossword puzzle as he took occasional breaks to chat with Coach. Cam Jones, a lineman with a reputation for his booming voice and larger-than-life personality, had the group in stitches, recounting wild stories from the road, embellishing his role in each, making sure everyone knew that he was the hero of every tale. Jaden Hicks, a defensive back with a no-nonsense attitude, was the calm presence in the group. He listened more than he spoke, but when he did, his words were impactful. Today, he sat beside one of the coaches, his eyes scanning the horizon through the large windows, occasionally offering a dry quip about their teammates' antics. Their conversations blended into a symphony of laughter and easy chatter, but there was an underlying tension as the plane began to vibrate slightly with turbulence as it flew into the Andes mountain range. A storm was approaching, though no one seemed overly concerned at first. The first signs of trouble were subtle. The gentle hum of the engines shifted, and the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom, alerting the passengers of a weather disturbance ahead. The players glanced at one another with casual shrugs, accustomed to the occasional bump in the air during their 17-week regular season schedule. In over 100 years, not once has a plane full of football players crashed, so the thought was the farthest from anyone's mind. But as the plane ascended further into the mountains, the mood shifted. Dark clouds thickened the skies, swirling ominously around them. The flight attendants moved swiftly, securing drinks and ensuring everyone was properly buckled in. The noise outside grew louder as the wind howled against the fuselage. The pilots, experienced in navigating such conditions, remained calm, but their communication with air traffic control became increasingly intense. "We're approaching heavy turbulence. Adjusting course," one of the pilots murmured over the intercom, though his voice was steady. Suddenly, the plane pitched forward, jolting the team into silence. The turbulence intensified, the huge jet now diving and rolling as the pilots worked in tandem to navigate the storm. The lights flickered as the cabin shook violently. Mahomes grabbed the armrest, trying to steady himself. "Hold on, everybody," he shouted, but his voice was drowned out by the roar of the wind. The cockpit lights flashed red, indicating a catastrophic system malfunction. The jet's right wing clipped the jagged peak of an unseen Andes mountain. Inside the cabin, the world turned chaotic. The noise of metal scraping against rock echoed as the plane lurched violently. Passengers screamed in terror as the aircraft banked and spiraled downward. Through the thick storm clouds, the pilot's voice barely reached the cabin. "Brace for impact!" There was a deafening crash. The right wing crumpled against the mountain, sending the plane into a violent spin. Inside, everything flew into the air, the card game, bottles, and luggage, before the fuselage detached, snapping away from the burning wreckage. The team's jet hit the snow-covered ground with a jarring thud, the world spinning wildly before coming to an abrupt halt as 17 staff members instantly lost their lives from blunt force trauma. The passengers that survived and didn't get sucked out of the ripped-open fuselage were left bloody in stunned silence, trying to process the wreckage around them. A low, ominous rumble reverberated through the ground. Through the chaos, Mahomes was the first to speak, his nose bloody and broken from headbutting the chair in front of him during impact. "Is everyone okay?" His voice was nasally. Coach Reed, bleeding but conscious, nodded. "We're alive. But where the hell are we?" Running back, Kareem Hunt, who had sustained only minor injuries, checked the wreckage, his eyes wide as he stumbled back. "This isn't just anywhere. This is the same crash site as that plane full of soccer players back in the 80s. The wreckage was eerily similar to the infamous 1972 crash site, the same jagged snow-covered peaks of the Andes. The survivors of that crash had faced unimaginable hardships, mainly having to resort to cannibalism to survive, and now the team was about to experience their own version of survival. In the aftermath of the crash, initial shock gave way to survival instincts. The team's coaches quickly took charge, organizing the players into roles. Mahomes assumed a leadership role, rallying the group together. "We stay calm, stay focused, and we survive this. Let's get organized so we can go on and win another Super Bowl next year."
There may be rumors of me breaking up with Travis, but who cares about that? Right now, y'all need to smash the like button and subscribe button for my favorite YouTuber, GK David II. His stories are so crazy. We all know they're not real, but still the best shit on YouTube. They're like mini movies.
In the biting 20 below cold, the group began assessing their environment. They were screwed. The entire cockpit part of the plane, with the gadgets that would allow their location to be pinpointed, was nowhere to be seen because the front portion of the aircraft was detached when it struck a mountaintop. As they walked away from the wreckage, they realized how close they were to the site of the 1972 crash. Metal scraps and remnants of the previous disaster were scattered across the snow. For a moment, there was a ghostly silence as they reflected on what had happened here before. "We have to make sure this doesn't end like it did for them," Patrick whispered, shivering but determined. With no immediate way of contacting the outside world, because Noon had phone service, they gathered what they could from the wreckage: blankets, supplies, and food, though the situation was dire. The harsh cold froze their breath as they fought to keep morale high. People started to die from the frigid temps as several Arctic storm systems moved through the area, bringing unbearable weather. Days turned into weeks, and their struggle grew more desperate as the last packs of chocolates and salted peanuts were consumed. They worked together to create makeshift shelters from the wreckage and used metal parts from the fuselage to create fire pits. The winds howled outside, a constant reminder of how precarious their survival was. On day 25, while scavenging for supplies, one of the water boys stumbled across an old, rusted backpack. Inside, he found old newspapers and a journal from the 1972 crash survivors. The eerie parallels between their situation and that of the previous survivors were undeniable. That evening, the team gathered, reading aloud from the journal. The story of the previous survivors' incredible endurance and resilience gave them hope. They survived. We can too. A pretty ass blonde cheerleader said quietly, shivering, looking worse for wear after having been exposed to the elements for so long. As the days went by, the team bonded over shared experiences, their lives forever intertwined in their fight for survival. Their resilience was their greatest strength. They weren't just a team, they were a family, and together they would overcome the odds, forging a new legacy in the shadow of those who came before them. On day 48, a third of the team had died off from starvation and from the bitter cold, temperatures dipping down to 40 below during the night. Coach Andy Reid tried to hold on but succumbed to the weather, two linebackers dragging his heavy body out to the area where they piled all of the dead bodies. Due to it being September and still warm back in the States when the team ventured out, no one packed heavy winter clothing due to the destination being in South America, where it was tropical and humid. Everyone wished they had have packed some hand warmers and fur coats due to the frigid temps in the mountains. Towards the end of day, one of the team doctors that survived the crash made a disgusting announcement, which was that, if they wanted to survive, they would possibly have to eat the remains of the dead to get protein, whose bodies were piled outside in the frigid cold, which would help them not get sick because the cold sort of served as refrigeration. It didn't take long before the first bites of half-frozen human flesh were consumed by a few of the players who had a strong will not to die, the other half reluctantly chowing down on their teammates and staff members in order to survive the nightmare, a few making a mental note that flesh didn't taste as delicious as steak or chicken, but it wasn't as disgustingly gross as they thought it would be. Unlike the 1972 crash victims, the Chiefs had fire, which allowed them to barbecue their friends and teammates, making the taste better than back in 1972 when those crash victims had to eat their friends' flesh cold and frozen, without any seasoning salt or ketchup. For weeks, Air Force had been conducting a relentless search for the Kansas City Chiefs team jet. Despite deploying state-of-the-art drones equipped with thermal imaging and GPS tracking, the search proved daunting. The rugged terrain and bitter cold of the Andes challenged even the most advanced technology. The freezing temperatures at high altitudes drained the drone's lithium-ion batteries, cutting missions short and forcing constant recalibrations. Frustration grew among the rescue teams as each new deployment ended with the drones losing power and plummeting back to base without locating any trace of the plane. Meanwhile, on the ground, the survivors endured their 66th day in the mountains. The once professional athletes and staff were now gone, their bodies weathered by the brutal cold and malnutrition. Their shelters, fashioned from the fuselage of the jet and scavenged materials, barely kept the howling winds at bay. Patrick Mahomes looked out at the endless expanse of snow and rock, his breath visible in the freezing air. "We've made it this far," he said to the group huddled around the fire. "They'll find us, we just have to hold on." Mia Richards, a trainer, nodded, though her eyes betrayed her fatigue. "We've survived the impossible already, we just need one break, one miracle." Back at the Air Force Base's HQ in Chile, Chief Engineer Major Daniel Scott was frustrated but determined. "We're running out of time," he told his team. "If the cold keeps draining the drones, we need to find a way to get them further. Every second counts." A junior technician proposed a bold idea, retrofitting one of the drones with a hybrid power system, using solar panels to supplement the failing batteries. It was a long shot, but Major Scott approved the modification. "We're launching at first light," he declared. The next day, the newly modified drone, nicknamed Phoenix, took off into the frigid sky. Equipped with enhanced insulation and solar panels, it soared above the jagged peaks, its camera scanning the snow-covered terrain below. The crew watched the monitor in tense silence as the drone navigated the unforgiving environment. As Phoenix approached the coordinates of the last known radar ping from the Chiefs plane, The battery indicator dipped dangerously low. Major Scott leaned forward, his knuckles white as he gripped the console. "Come on, just a little further," he muttered. Then a flicker of movement appeared on the screen. The thermal imaging detected faint heat signatures, too faint to be natural. The drone swooped lower, and the camera revealed a cluster of makeshift shelters half buried in snow. In the mountains, Mahomes and the other survivors heard a faint hum above them. Sasha Cole was the first to spot the small black dot against the gray sky. "It's a drone," she shouted, her voice breaking with emotion. The group scrambled out of their shelters, waving frantically at the machine. Mia lit a signal fire they had prepared for this moment, and soon a column of smoke rose into the sky. The drone circled above, capturing their movements on its camera. At the Air Force Base, cheers erupted. Major Scott immediately contacted the nearest rescue team. "We found them. Dispatch the choppers now." Within hours, the sound of rotors echoed through the valley. The survivors, weak but ecstatic, watched as helicopters descended. Medics rushed to assess their condition, wrapping them in blankets and providing food and water. As they were airlifted to safety, the survivors couldn't help but reflect on their ordeal. They had endured 67 days of freezing temperatures, starvation, and the crushing weight of having had to eat the bodies of people they knew, but they had survived, together. At the Air Force Base, Major Scott met them upon their arrival. "You're all miracles," he said. Patrick shook his hand firmly, his eyes filled with gratitude. "No, you're the miracle. Without that drone, we wouldn't be here." The story of their rescue made headlines worldwide, inspiring millions. The players and staff, once bonded by the game, were now tied together by a deeper, unbreakable connection, a testament to resilience, teamwork, and the determination to survive against all odds. Top of form.